Blog number 8, BROODMOTHER, 2016 to 2024. It's all about the groove, not just making the furniture vibrate. Carnifex. Dear reader, much like the Crank is Life blog, which is number 3, I would like to dedicate this entry to another band I admired that is sadly hanging up the instruments and calling it a day. That band is the Worcester stoner collective BROODMOTHER. I've dabbled in lots of stoner doom albums when I was exploring the fringes of what's possible in metal. Electric Wizard, Conan, Bong Ripper, Down, Yob, Sleep, Pallbearer. They were all bands that I enjoyed listening to while either stoned off my bonds or found catharsis in the throes of depression. While I'd say the BROODMOTHER were more of a hard rock band than being strictly metal, I can't think of a single other band that laid down the grin-inducing, slow-nod groove better than them. I first saw them when we shared the stage in Wolverhampton in 2018, then later again in Birmingham when they supported Boscoloid. While the first gig's lineup was a hodgepodge of genres, it was clearer to me on the second gig when they shared the stage with doom metal band and experimental prog band how much BROODMOTHER stood out in the stoner genre. Natural Born Sinner has an incredible bass interlude that rumbles like a distorted cello and wails like alien static before the band kicks into its crescendo on an absolutely delicious riff. Cosmic Pyramid also had some of that really fun interplay between the instruments, especially when the second half builds tension, skittering and dancing over the fretboard before delivering an absolute bastard of a groove. This kind of magic was later expanded on over their next 2 EPs, which had some amazing standouts that I liked seeing in their show. Trick of the Journey has this really sweet jam section that blossoms into a fantastic guitar solo, especially live. Vlad the Inhaler has a fantastic vocal hook with the woozy guitar leads working diegetically with the lyrics, and The Fixer's In is the best song I've heard about the subject of a drug deal. With Born to Lose, I invited them to play in Shrewsbury twice and once in Machynlleth, and they always delivered the goods. BROODMOTHER unfortunately seemed to have a case of the exploding drummer syndrome. In the past year and a half, they couldn't find a full-time drummer, and it seemed to stall their momentum. I filled in on the drums at their Machynlleth show, and they later offered to pay for my travel playing future gigs with them as they looked for a full-time replacement. I happily accepted, of course. I've got a lot of respect for them continuing with a part-time drummer instead of playing to a drum machine backing track. Who in the right mind would do that? In that time, I hung out with them for a few practice sessions and rocked behind the kit for the next 3 shows in Nottingham, Shrewsbury and Bournemouth. Drumming was my original instrument, so it was a genuine pleasure to have an outlet for this particular skill, though I do admit it was an odd fit sometimes. My thrash metal, D-beat, punk influences would sometimes kick the tempo on a few songs, where the groove necessitated a slower beat. It was something that took me a while to get used to. Still, I like to think that at the time I made the drumming for those songs my own with new double kick patterns and an on-stage energy while headbanging away behind the kit. In the end though, after the high of playing a cracking set in Bournemouth, the band decided to call it a day. It's sad news, but not entirely surprising given their stalling momentum. I'll miss the band's mercilessly democratic candour in the practice room, Noel's laid-back attitude and his mid-jam expressions, Ian on the guitar's quick death metal jams in the practice space, chatting Philip Glass with Ian on the bass and his recommendations of obscure Japanese grindcore bands, and the intelligent conversations with Clive on guitar on the long drives home. I know a couple of members of the band have their own projects to focus on that must feel fresh and exciting after being stuck in the mud, but right now between them, nothing is going to match the collective groove of BROODMOTHER in their prime. I'll have their setlist burned in my memory for a long, long time indeed. Mike. P.S. I never got to ask them if the yonic imagery of their EP, The Third Eye, was intentional or not.